The Rams needed to stop Titans quarterback Steve McNair. On 3rd and 5, with 22 seconds to play, they could not.
Now steps back, rolls left, rolls right, in bad trouble, back at the 40. He gets away somehow, fires downfield, there's Dyson. Dyson at the 10.
Ball timeout.
Kevin Carter! Kevin Carter!
So it all comes down to this. 6 seconds to play.
All right, guys. Last play of the game.
McNair will work out of the shotgun.
McNair drops, throws right side for Dyson. He dives for the end zone.
Reaches to the goal line. No, he falls at the wall.
Didn't make it. Didn't make it. No. Yes. Oh, we won it.
That's it. St. Louis, the gateway to the West, is now the gateway to the best football team in the world.
And they might be in Vinatieri's range. Right now, it would be a 53-yarder. Here comes the blitz, and here's Brady. He dumps it to Wiggins down to the 30, and now no question about it, they are in range, but they got to hurry. Maybe he can spike it right here and stop the clock.
That's what he'll do. He'll spike it here. Two of the greatest kicks that I've ever seen in my life.
Here comes one of greater importance if he makes it, and it's right down the pipe. Adam Vinatieri. No time on the clock, and the Patriots have won Super Bowl 36. Unbelievable.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Triple Play. And remember to subscribe, like, so we can grow and get the word out. Also, if you're interested, you notice today we've got our NFL guru in the studio today. But make sure you guys are supporting him at Resource One. Give him a call at 636-458-1398. Andy and his team would be glad to help you. Also, remember Chris and CS Design for any of your web design needs. They do office support as well. And they've done our logo. They did the intro. You'll see the outro out today. So give them a call at 573-436-3717. Once again, that's 573-436-3717. So as you saw in our intro we've been putting out there, you'll notice that we have Andy McCollum with us today. Thanks, Andy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great to be here.
So, and we've got a lot of questions for you. So, a ton. This is going to be a fun time because we're getting ready to go to the Super Bowl. You've been to 2, and both of your Super Bowls have been determined in the last 12 seconds of the game. You realize that?
No, I did not realize that.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Game 1,
Yeah.
6 seconds.
Okay.
Not even a quarter of a yard away. The tackle, right?
Yeah.
He wrapped him good. That was a good wrap tackle.
Yeah. They wrapped him real well. And then the second one, 11 seconds, and they got it within field goal range, and they kick a field goal with 11 seconds on the clock.
Yeah.
So
I like the ending of the first one better.
I agree.
Really? Yeah.
Well, you know, it does help when the other team doesn't watch your game play on your practice. So we'll jump into that.
We're going right
You
into that.
were on the last play of that game, right?
What's that?
The last play. You were on that play?
Which one? The first Super Bowl? Or
Yeah.
the second
The first one?
Yeah.
No, our defense was on the field there. So I was on the sidelines.
Yeah.
There's a good picture. In fact, somebody pulled it out of the paper and framed it for me. I got it in the basement. But I'm like jumping up in the air on the sidelines right after that play. And you can see my vertical. It's about half an inch.
That's awesome.
So you guys didn't, nobody went on the field. It was just, we made it. Everybody's on the sideline.
Oh, no, after the play, absolutely. Yeah, we were on the field after the play. Yeah, no.
I didn't, I'm trying to compare today, like today's
no doubt.
10 seconds left field goal compared to maybe back then. Today you'd get literally everybody on the field, plus, plus the 50 coaches they have.
We were rushing the field. It was, it was chaos. After
that was awesome. I've got a couple of pictures. I'll put them up here as we're going throughout there because we got some good ones. So let's start real quickly, though. Our Super Bowl we're getting ready to have. We chose the wrong team this last week. You and I went with the Bengals, and the Chiefs did it. What'd you think of it?
Man, hats off to the Chiefs. I mean, that was a great performance. And, I thought the Bengals would bring it, but it looked to me they came back at the end and made it real close and made it an awesome game, fun game to watch. But it looked to me that first quarter there, KC's defense was killing them. I mean, they sacked Burrows 3 or 4 times, and you could tell he was getting a little flustered and frazzled. He threw an interception there in the first half.
Absolutely.
So hats off to them. You got to give them that defense credit.
That one could have, to me, going into that game was either or, because they were, to me, a very evenly matched group. It's just a matter of who had the better day. Going in, I was a little concerned about Mahomes and his upper high ankle. Really didn't play much into it, and the wide receiver he seemed like he was good the whole game. So I mean, you had two guys with a few health concerns that didn't really seem to play into the game.
Mahomes didn't move vertical up the field at all. Really, if I remember correctly, it was more he was mobile enough to get out of trouble when he needed to. But that last play at the end, when you saw him sprint to the sideline, you could tell like that was a full on effort. He forgot about his ankle for 5 seconds, and you could tell if he was doing that the whole game, I think he would have been a different player towards the end of the game.
Yeah, it's amazing that when the big game shows up, how those hurts go away. I know they get a little help from the training room, but it's just it's mentally that game is it's a championship game, and just a little pain is not going to stop.
You're numb the whole game, right?
Yeah.
Whole day you're numb.
Oh yeah.
So going into Super Bowl for them. No, and the other side, we got to talk about the Eagles real quick. They just dominated. We knew that was probably going to be the case. I had a little hope for the 49ers, but once Brock went down in the first quarter, it was all. I mean, they had the fourth guy Stringer out there, and then he goes down right away, and all of a sudden they got Brock out there. He can't throw.
That's got to be one of the only games ever that a fifth-string quarterback was playing in it, right? That's got to be.
Yeah,
I haven't researched it, but
I read somewhere earlier that due to that they're talking about they want to change those rules back to where they can have a third quarterback on the roster and have them dressed and active. That might be a good idea.
You got to do something. That
was a mess because once he got hurt, they're going to be down. I think their next quarterback was going to be McCaffrey taking snaps or something. So that's not how you want to run your offense.
No. Well,
although I was interested to see McCaffrey run the show because that guy's a stud, right? That guy's unbelievable.
Well, so Super Bowl, Eagles, Chiefs. Who do you think?
I think it's going to be the Eagles. It seems like a old school, at least offensively, old school offense. Pound the football, run the ball against the razzle dazzle of the Chiefs and what Mahomes and all those weapons over there can do. And I'm an old school guy, so I like the Eagles.
I have to say I like the Eagles too. I'm a big Chiefs fan from Missouri, but I have to say the Eagles. Me, it's their defense. I mean, we saw what they just did to the 49ers. They just absolutely came out. We talked about the Chiefs have a good defense, but the Eagles seem to have the best defense in the league right now. I mean, it just seems like their defense goes in, and then their offense just has to do, as you said, old school, pound the ball, short passes, lots of moving up the field, little few yards at a time. So it just seems like the Eagles, as long as they continue with the game plan that got them there, I don't see why they don't come away with that Super Bowl trophy.
I agree.
So.
Yeah, the Eagles quarterbacks, I think the most poised athlete I've ever seen on a field. Field, court, tennis court. When he stands out there, the game is easy. He doesn't seem to be worried about anything, and I think the defense picks up on that, offense picks up on that, and I think that's their super weapon right now. Is his calmness, his demeanor.
Yeah, and having that cast around him, those guys on offense, he's able to just dish it off to guys. Because he didn't even throw that many long passes, at least the last few weeks. They're just dishing off to those guys underneath and having them go do their thing.
Yeah, well, and a good offensive line makes a big difference too. And they seem to have, he doesn't seem to need all the time the throw. He just needs enough time to make the play happen because they've got just enough tools to make it happen.
Yeah.
But the defense is, I mean, when I think of Eagles, I think defense before offense. I mean, they just seem like they're built around their defense, and then the offense comes afterwards. When I think of the Chiefs, I think just the opposite. Offense with a decent defense, right? I mean, they're almost opposites of each other. One's got a superior offense with a good defense. One's got an incredible defense with a good offense. So they're both.
Hopefully we get a good game.
Oh, I think we will. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I always hate to see those blowouts that show up in the Super Bowl sometimes, but I don't think that's going to happen this year.
No, I think it'll be a good game too. Be a very good game. All right, so now you heard it. So you didn't say who you were going to go
Eagles,
with.
Eagles.
Eagles. All right.
Sorry, I didn't make that clear.
So 3 Eagles. We'll have to see if we're right on that one, though. It could be the Chiefs. I'd be just as happy to see Mahomes bring it back to Missouri.
Yeah.
So
No doubt.
yeah, and he's a great talent. No, I have a lot of friends that are huge Chiefs fans, so it'll be fun. Fun game to watch. All right, so talking about the Super Bowl, I got to ask you, what is it like prepping for the Super Bowl? You were going to ask me some questions about that too, but go ahead. Tell us what the week of the Super Bowl, or a couple weeks leading up to it. You've won the championship. You're heading. What are the things going through your mind at this point?
Well, you try to take it like every other week, even though it's not. And every coach tries to pound that into you. You know, this is another game. We got to prepare just like we have all year, and you try to make sure you do that. And that's key, right? As professional athletes, that's absolutely what they need to do, and what I have no doubt they will do. But there is a lot of other stuff going on. There's a lot of media. It's crazy. A lot of people around the facility.
Friends coming out of the woodwork all of a sudden.
Oh yeah, everybody wants tickets, all that stuff. I think the first year we went, we only had a week between the NFC Championship and the Super Bowl, and then the next one we had 2 weeks. Which that 2 weeks makes it different too, because normally during the season you got your weekly schedule, you're on schedule, boom, 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 doing what you do, and it's standard routine. Obviously, that has to be adjusted with this big 2 week time frame. Again, the media being around there is always crazy, and you know I didn't, you know, they talk to the O linemen seldomly, not that often, right? But we always had fun with it, and I remember, I forget which Super Bowl this was, but they had half the in Rams Park over there. We had a facility where we'd eat lunch in that gym there where they had the basketball. They cut off half of it with a curtain, right? And they'd have a stage set up over there for all the interviews that guys would do during lunch. And so there was a bunch of media guys over there, cameras all over the place. And I remember because you know, we'd find out who was scheduled to be on the stage at what time, right? And, you know, we'd always be able to get around that curtain and mess with them, right? It came down to, I think one time we were up there, and I think I got up there. Yeah, I was up there, and we had been doing it to all the other guys, and Adam was trying to get me back. So he like threw a chair across the stage right in the middle of what I was doing. It was pretty funny. So you have a lot of fun with it. Make sure you enjoy it. But there is a lot of extra stuff to do, a lot of extra pressure on, obviously, because it's a big game.
Well, you mentioned Adam Timmerman, Donut Brother. So we got the donuts.
So anybody's wondering, we're talking about football.
We're talking about football. We got the donuts. Mm-hmm. So Adam, if you're watching, in the spirit of the game, we're just missing you. We need to get him on here.
There's your strength juice right there. It's all right there.
Now, what's he doing right now? I know you still talk to him.
Yeah, he's up in Iowa, back in his hometown. He was running some John Deere dealerships up there. I think he let that go. I think he's running the FCA.
The coordination, right?
Coordination for, I think, the whole northern half of Iowa, I think.
Yeah. So if you're part of Fellowship of Christian Athletes in that area, that would be his thing. So he's another Super Bowl champ. So he was always fun to have around.
Does anything change other than, obviously, amount of people? Like, did your food get better? Super Bowl week, lunch break, everything? Anything change?
No,
nothing.
Really.
No. Same old.
No, I think most coaches, and you know, maybe it's changed since then, but most coaches try to keep that routine, especially if it's been successful all year long. They don't want to change it, and honestly, most coaches and players are superstitious about that kind of thing too.
Oh yeah.
So anything that gets them out of their routine, they don't like. So
okay.
I think coaches spend a lot of time designing those schedules.
Do you right away, like championship games over? Are you on a plane to go to where the Super Bowl is being hosted? Do you have a couple days downtime? Is it off to the next?
No, at least when we did it, we didn't travel till just a couple days before the game.
Okay.
And then when you got this 2-week period, I don't think you're going to travel till you get, closer to game day.
All right.
And then each team gets a time, like 2 days, right, before the game. Each team gets a half of a day, basically, to run through plays.
You get certain times on that field to run practices and whatnot.
And I'm going to jump into the deep end because we were just talking about that. That's what got taped on the second Super Bowl. That's what the New England taped when they did the scandal. They went in and had one of their people tape the second half of the Rams practice, which is why, ironically, they seem to know a lot more about your plays the second half of the game.
When they reported that, I'm just going back in my own mind history, they did not say one thing about it being the Super Bowl practice days before the Super Bowl. They made it sound in the media like it was like a week 4 practice.
No, it was their trainer.
I had no idea about this.
Yeah, it was a trainer for New England, and he turned the tape in to Goodell, and that was so. We know what happened, and we know it was true because if it didn't, there would have been no reason for Goodell to give the largest fine ever to a coach,
right?
To New England's coach. Okay, Belichick got $1 million fine and couldn't play one game, couldn't coach a game. That was the most fine ever to a head coach for the incident. The FBI asked for the tape, and he said, "No, I've already levied the fines, and I destroyed the evidence. Basically, I destroyed the tape." So that was. He watched it, made his determination, thought the penalty was $1 million in a lost game, and then they basically wrecked the life of the trainer who had turned it in. I mean, they went after him hard.
They took care of him.
Yeah, they went after it. They didn't they don't like dirt coming up. I mean, I think at that point they were trying to keep the press off because they also had that was Goodell first coming into office, and you had the CTC stuff coming on, so all the head injuries, and that's why Tagliabue left. Yeah. Ironically, nobody talks about this, but I'll give you another little history lesson. The attorney group that represented the NFL through those lawsuits was Tagliabue and his law office. So he stepped down as commissioner, and Goodell hired him and his group to represent him, the NFL for the injuries. So,
that seems like it might be a little conflict there.
Might be.
They made a conflicting move to not be conflicted.
Yeah, if you haven't seen the movie, Will Smith did a really good movie a few years back about that, where he plays
CTE.
He plays the doctor who turned it in on the football.
Oh, okay. No, I have not seen it.
I would recommend it. He does a really good job. It's fairly accurate if you read the book. The guy wrote a book, and it's fairly accurate to his story that he wrote. So I thought, Will Smith, anytime he does a real life character, always seems to play it almost at 100th degree. I mean, Ali's wife at one point said she couldn't tell the difference between Will Smith and Ali when he would call the house.
Yeah,
interesting.
And when he played Gardner, Gardner said he couldn't tell the difference. He would call his house and be like, "Are you me?" Because he really got into the role,
he's good at his job.
So so he. No matter what you think about Will Smith, that's one of the things he's done well with his career, playing those dramas like that. So yeah, it was a good story. Moving on though, so Super Bowl I, you guys win. That was the greatest show on turf. Super Bowl II is kind of the demise of Kurt Warner. I mean, it was shortly after that, one more season, and he's gone. And the reins are now handed over to Mark Bollinger. What was the difference between playing with Kurt Warner and Mark Bollinger? Obviously, two talented quarterbacks. For you as an offensive lineman, what was the difference?
They're very similar for us. Wise, they're both relatively quiet guys, but you knew they were back there doing their job, and they're doing it to a real high degree. You never really saw Mark or even Kurt get in anybody's face, and they didn't need to. At least with the guys that we had on the field. But I think they both, they both came up through, Coach Martz running that offense, and they did a heck of a job running the show. And like I said, as far as offensive linemen, we're doing our job regardless of who's back there. But they were excellent leaders in a substantial way, that they didn't have to do the talking and whatnot.
What about like play style? Very similar play style. I'd imagine there's a difference between a quarterback that drops back and can navigate a pocket well, and a guy that is a little jumpy and flushes out.
Neither of those guys were speedy,
right?
Run for any type of yards. I mean, they were pocket passers, and we knew if we gave them a pocket, they would step up in it and make the accurate throws. Their arms were amazing, accurate. I know a lot of people talked about Kurt and how he hit guys on the run, so they wouldn't have to break stride, and then get another 30 yards after the catch. And Mark could do that too. I remember, I think one of my kids saw one of those old commercials where they did the when they first came out with fantasy football, and they all go, "You should pick me." I know Mark did one of those.
Oh yeah,
where he's throwing behind his back and hitting the down marker. According to him, that was all real live footage, and it was not doctored.
Oh,
so I kind of believe it because I've seen him throw it, but.
So I got to start though. I'm going to rewind here a little bit to the beginning of that. Okay, so let's talk about where you come from. Where were you raised? Where did you come out from?
I grew up in Ohio. Went to University of Toledo.
Okay, and then you initially were part of New Orleans. Did you walk on? Is that what I understood, or did you get drafted?
Yeah. Well, my first year out of school, I was a little undersized. I was still trying to put on weight there, and.
Hadn't been introduced to donuts yet?
Well, I had them, but they just weren't sticking on like they were. I needed them to.
You're still too young.
Yeah. No, so my first year out of school, I actually went back to Toledo as a graduate assistant coach for that season because I didn't even get a tryout. Obviously, I didn't get drafted, and I didn't even get a free agent look. So I went back just to get back in the weight room. Coach Pinkel was the coach there then. I know you know him from Missouri.
Yeah. He was a good coach.
Yeah, did a good job. And then that spring, I played arena football up in Milwaukee.
Okay.
And I was only there for a couple weeks when I had a chance to go to camp with the Cleveland Browns. And the only reason I really got that chance was, again, it's who you know, right?
Yeah.
So one of my former O-line coaches at Toledo had become a scout at Cleveland. And they had a guy, I remember the guy was this big Hawaiian guy they drafted, and he quit. He just walked out. It was one of their guards. I think it was like a third or fourth round pick. He was a guard. He walked out after minicamp.
Wow.
Said, I can't play. So they had a spot, and I remember they brought me in there to try out. They just worked me out for like, oh gosh, they tried to kill me.
But they probably really did try
to
kill you.
Yeah, they did. And then they even told me right there, said, we just want you to come in, and, as a camp. This was back when you could have 100 guys on the roster to start camp.
Yeah.
Now you can't have that many, right? They said, we need a camp player. We need a body, right? And they said, it's not, they were honest with it. They said, you're not likely to make the team, and, we need a camp body. I said, okay, give me a shot. So, anyway, I ended up making a practice squad on there, which for me was like hitting the lotto.
Yeah, and that's all you need is an opportunity, right?
You're going to pay me to play football? I've been doing this all my life for free.
And it's a nice change of pace.
And I'd continue if I need to. But, so I was on practice squad there for about half the year, and then the Saints picked me up off of there like mid-season on their active roster.
Okay.
So I was down with the Saints for the next few years before I came up here.
Where were you when you got the call? That's if anybody gets called up to big leagues, the question is, where were you when you got called? Do you remember where you were when you got called, or no?
When your friend called you?
Said you made.
I don't remember.
That's
I don't remember the exact location of the phone,
okay.
But I do remember that the coach at Milwaukee got upset with me, which
because you had to leave.
Yeah. And the same thing happened when I left Cleveland to go to New Orleans, which is an interesting story. But the coach, and he asked me, he said, "You really think you're going to make it?" I said, which
15 years later, to answer that
yes,
question.
I did.
Yes,
I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't.
No, I don't think I'm going to make it, but I'm going to do it anyways.
Give it a shot, Yeah.
So now, were you a believer during this whole time, or was that before you became a Christian? So.
Well, I was a believer, but I didn't really understand it, right? And then that's part of that's the main part of my testimony. It was not who I was, right? So I was wrapped up in all this, and in football and performance, and that was the identity of me. And you see that with a lot of athletes, and you still do. So I like to share that with whoever I can, because I was really caught up in that. My identity was my performance on the field, as a football player. It wasn't until several years later that I really figured out, and God put certain people in my life saying, okay, this isn't who you are. This is just what you do, right? It's just a job. It's what you do. Your identity is not as your profession, right? And it's not just athletes. Everybody, is in danger of falling into that trap. So, yeah, that's a huge part of my testimony.
Awesome. So you were already kind of a believer, but your faith wasn't really your guiding stick at this point. It's just really your ability in the sports. You go to New Orleans. I have to imagine one of those guys that starts to have an impact is the quarterback there, right? Danny Warfel?
Oh, yeah. He came in. I was down there a couple of years before they drafted Danny, and yes, he was absolutely an impact because he was one of those guys. He won the Heisman, didn't he? He was
won a
big
Heisman.
time.
Yeah,
he was
a really
time,
good college player,
big time name and everybody. But he wasn't what you'd expect him to be. He was what, as advertised, I guess. He walked the walk. He didn't just talk the talk, and he walked the walk. And he was he was a good example for everybody down there, and he did help influence my faith as well. Yeah.
I remember hearing him one time share how he would go to New Orleans, and he'd have to make a right to go to the practice squad facility and a left to go do mission work to downtown New Orleans. And he said one day, I just could no longer make a right. And that's when he walked away from the game.
Yeah.
Because he just kept being tugged.
Yeah, I think he's still doing great work down there. He's a good man.
So then the Rams, you're a free agent, and you signed your first major contract with the Rams, right? That was kind of your first big deal?
Yeah, and that was the spring of '99, right before that season. Yeah.
So right before that season, you're coming up here. You're starting to develop into a top offensive lineman. And what did you think of St. Louis? I mean, people didn't think of St. Louis as a football town, right?
No. In fact, we came in. I think I signed in April, so we made a visit up here in April. It's me and my wife, and it went good. And one of the coaches I had in New Orleans for a while, the offensive line coach John Masco, ended up getting a job here. So I think that was a factor in them giving us a call. But on the way out, we're heading towards the airport. My wife said, and I'd already signed. I'm ready to go. So my wife said, "Okay, let's stop and get some T-shirts and hats and stuff for the kids and our friends, right?" And so we stop. I think she ran into Walmart or some store in there, and she asked them. And it's a funny story. She asked the worker, "You got any Rams gear?" And this lady looked at her sideways and said, "Rams? Rams suck." I'll never forget that. It's hilarious. We were like, man, maybe we shouldn't have signed so quickly. But a few months later, I bet that lady's singing a different story. So
the whole town was. I mean, so then you come on, and then they're putting together quite the team at this point. So not only were you brought in, but Timmerman's brought in, right? Mm-hmm. They make the trade for Marshall Faulk.
Same year. Yeah.
They go get Trent Green. One of the top quarterbacks. I mean, so going into that season,
I think Torrey was a rookie that year too.
Yeah, Torrey was drafted. Because they had a really bad year, so he was one of the. I think it was top 4 pick or top 3 pick. I mean, he was high up there. I don't know. Were we so bad that we got the number 1? I mean, he was one of the top 2 or 3 picks. I know that. So,
that might warrant the Rams suck comment if they got the first pick.
Yeah, they had several. They kept sucking for a while when it came to St. Louis, and they kept getting these first round picks. So they got pace. They had pace. They had some tools. Okay, you had on the defense. You had DeMarco Farr, who was and McCollum, who were starting. They were starting to go towards the twilight of the careers. You had the Rev Isaac Bruce, and then they got out and got a quarterback, but he didn't turn out to be who they thought he was going to be. And then Vermeil comes in. the first thing I knew about Vermeil was, and maybe you can say something to this because you obviously had summer practices, is apparently he loved 3-a-days and the players complained. Was that when you were there?
No, not as much. So he was. I think that it was his third year. Yeah, it was his third year with the Rams when I got here, and we had played. New Orleans and we were in the same division, so we played them twice a year, every year when I was down there, and so I knew, especially their D line. I know them very well, playing against them and whatnot. But and we heard the stories, and I think he confirmed this if you talked to Dick. But I mean, he kind of let up a little bit because he finally had the roster he wanted. I think he did try to run some guys off, and he tried. From the stories I hear too, those 2 years before I got here, it was a lot harder.
Oh, it was. I mean, it was in the news. I think a little bit too. He made a lot of news because it was hot. 100
3-a-days.
Yeah,
3-a-days, 103 degree temperature. He would
No thanks.
he would bust them. So
2-a-days is part of why I stopped playing football.
yeah, we had some of those 3-a-days when I was down in New Orleans. My first couple of years, Jim Moore was the coach, and I remember about my first year after that, because after I got down there, I also went the following year and played over in Europe in the World League for a season. So I came right back. Within just a few weeks of that, we're right into training camp.
Where in Europe did you play?
I played on Barcelona Dragons.
Hey,
in Spain, huh? How was that? That seems cool.
Real quick, did you know a guy named Justin Skaggs there?
Justin Skaggs. No, it doesn't ring a bell.
Okay, he would have played over there at that time. He was one of my youth from St. Clair, Missouri.
Oh, yeah.
I was just curious. So,
Barcelona.
Yeah, well, they had that World League for 6 or 8 years, something like that, I would guess, before they got rid of it. But yeah, so
that's cool.
Yeah, we were over there in Barcelona. It was a good time.
That's awesome.
Good time.
Did you have kids at that point?
What's that?
Did you have any kids at that point?
No.
No. Still young.
No, that was getting ready to happen though. Yeah. So you moved to St. Louis first year. So we already talked about Dick Vermeil. We were talking about earlier at another time. I know we talked about the big change because Trent Green goes down in one of the dirtiest hits in football. I mean, it's still known. I mean, that's if you look at dirty hits, you go on YouTube, worst hits, whatever. It's one of the. It's known out there as one of the worst hits in football. It's during a preseason game. Trent Green goes down. And now St. Louis is like, oh my goodness, we got a great team, but we have no leader. And in steps Kurt Warner, right? Oh, yeah. So I'm going to put his picture up here because I want to talk about him for a second. Nobody expected anything from this kid, really, right? So I mean, his experience at this point is Arena League. Walked away from being on the team for Green Bay. And so what was the atmosphere like there? What was your thoughts? What were the thoughts of the players there? Obviously, you're a part of this team now. You just signed a contract, and you just saw this, and in comes Kurt Warner. What's your initial thoughts of him initially? So,
well, yeah, we've all seen the movie, right? So, it's fairly accurate. I know it's more about the relationship with him and his wife and whatnot. So it's a great story. I recommend anybody wants to see the movie. But as far as the team, we knew Kurt from practice, and we knew what he can do, and he was a good quarterback, did a good job. But obviously, nobody knew what he was capable of, and I always think about that press conference with Vermeil, and he said, "We will rally around Kurt Warner, and we will play good football." And they still play that all the time, and we quote that. Our high school staff, we quote that all the time. As soon as somebody gets hurt, we have to quote that.
That's good.
So we're gonna, whoever's stepping in is going to step in, and we're gonna play good football. So
that's cool.
Absolutely. Well, but I mean, his story goes on. I mean, he was on. I have it up on our screen, but he was on Sports Illustrated. And you're like, who is this guy? I mean, he goes on. Yeah. During practice, was he that good? I mean, could you tell he was really just an incredible.
Well, you could tell he was running the offense well, and then you could tell he was doing well most of the time when Martz wasn't yelling at him. He got that a lot, which
young guy.
Good and bad. But
no.
But yeah, you could tell. But you didn't know he was going to go light the world on fire like he did. So
yeah, well, and the other thing I think really helped, and I'm going to put his picture up here. In all that is the other pickup we had during that off season, which was Marshall Falk, right? I mean, me and you've talked before, but my understanding from what you said is that he was like a second coach on the or coach on the field. I mean, he would see the plays and be able to adjust everybody on the field on the fly. So they get that kind of freedom.
Yeah, he was very talented, and in fact, you can go look at the film and argue that he is in the top 10 ever probably. If you look at some film and see what when I think of stuff like that, there's multiple times where you'd be blocking on the field and you'd happen to see him come by you, and then you just stop and watch. In fact, one time we were playing the Browns. I forget who I was blocking. I was blocking somebody. I hit the guy, and Marshall ran right between us. Then I finished my block.
What was that?
I did one of these. How do you get through there? Yeah.
That's cool. Cool. That's a cool kind of fast.
Yeah, he was in his hip motion. I mean, one of the things I always note about Marshall is the way he could cut. I've never seen hardly any running backs cut like him. You have to go back and find some of the old school running backs, like from the 70s.
Yeah.
To find that kind of cut. That he just was a unique.
His feet were always on the ground, but they weren't.
No,
you know what I mean? Like he always had full pressure, but they were so quick.
Well, and I go back and say he would shift so quickly. It was just it was so smooth. It was just an incredible.
Now let's
thing
talk
to watch.
about Marshall as a person. Nothing. I've heard stories about it. We don't have to bring it up. We don't have to talk about it. I've heard some bad stories about him.
Obviously, he's a good announcer. I watch him I watch him announce sometimes. Kurt's become a great announcer. I was going to ask you on that team. I mean, okay, so on that team, did you think that you one day would be looking at not one, not two, not three, not four, but 5 Hall of Famers? I did the math last night. You have 5 Hall of Famers on that team. We have Orlando Pace. Obviously, everybody knew he was a great left tackle, right? So, Isaac Bruce,
Bruce.
Yeah. Kurt Warner, right? All right. Marshall Faulk, and Dick Vermeil.
Oh, yeah.
5 5 Hall of Famers.
They're still trying to get Torian, too.
And big game.
Yeah.
Possibly 6 Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
Possibly 7. I mean, would you include yourself on that list? Humbly, honestly, compared to... I mean, you played long enough. I don't personally know how they rate.
I think that's the hard part about offensive linemen. How many
Yeah.
times you see an offensive lineman? You have to really be either an elite left tackle or right tackle. Nobody really pays attention to the center or the other guys unless you just. Man, I don't even know if they do. I mean, his Timberman was really good. I mean, he had a really good career too.
Yeah, I think you got to be for linemen. There's not a lot of stats to look at, stuff like that, but. You give I think the main thing they're going to look at is maybe Pro Bowl appearances and one like that. I didn't have any of those. I think I maybe should have a couple of years in there, but you can't control that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
No.
But I think that's basically what they're going by as far as linemen. And the biggest thing I think a lot of times is they go back and look at like Orlando, the first round draft pick, and deservedly so. He was a
Monster.
Freak of nature, and he just destroyed people. So, you look back and say, okay, this guy was drafted first round for a reason, right?
Well, a lot of people are drafted in the first round and don't make it very well, though. I mean, he performed. There was a reason, but he lived up to it. I mean, same thing with Torrey Holt. There were lots of wide receivers drafted, but big game. He showed up.
It was amazing. His speed was amazing. As big as he is, he's enormous. Like you said, he's a monster.
Yeah.
But I'm amazed by his speed. I remember one play. I don't know who we played, but somebody threw an interception. I don't know who it was. But we were about to score type interception. And this was going to be a pick 6, right? And I'm determined. I'm gonna catch this guy. Right? And I'm a fat lineman. I'm giving everything I got. And I all of a sudden here's Orlando just going right past me, man. He's just going on right past me. Those long strides. It looks like he's not even running.
That's incredible.
It's not like he's not even trying, but he just blew my doors off and ran down the guy before he scored on the other end.
I think that was one of the stats that was so impressive about him is I remember hearing his 40 time.
Oh yeah,
and it was like a 4.8 or something. He was 300 plus pounds running.
Yeah, I mean he
was amazing. And I remember that one year he held out for a while, and everybody was was worried about him coming in, and we got to get to practicing with the whole O-line together. And we're all thinking, this is Orlando. He can show up and just destroy people. I mean, I couldn't do that. I see even the practices now with the new collective bargaining agreement that I would not be ready to play. They don't put enough work in.
Yeah.
And you can tell by the product that's put on the field. I don't think it's as good as it could be because they can't. They're not allowed to hit. They're not allowed to actually participate. And I'll tell you right now, I wouldn't have been 100% ready to play to the top of my ability with that kind of preparation. Yeah. Guys like Orlando, guys like the Hall of Fame type guys like that can do that. But
and his pace he was good just because of his size. Obviously, he had to have good footwork. Was he upper body strong? Was he lower body strong? Was he
all of that?
All of it, everything.
Yeah.
All right.
His technique was flawless. He's a high level athlete in a massive body, rare combination.
I've been amazed to watch how he slimmed down like you. I mean, he's
let's talk about the transformation because I'd imagine that's a daunting thought. You're done playing.
Well, I didn't really care at that time.
At some point, it became a priority, though.
It did. I'll tell you the story. Why? It's a good story.
All right.
Really triggered it for me. For the first 4 or 5 years after I retired, I didn't do much of anything. I stayed that same weight. I was right around 300 pounds, and I was like, I'm not going to work out. I've been forced to work out for 30 years. I'm not going to do that anymore.
That's what I keep telling him when you get to the gym with me.
But my starting point was a little different, though.
Yeah, so I said I've been forced to do that forever. I'm not working out, And then it was I couldn't tell you what year it was or when it was, but Adam called me and said, "Hey, we're going to go hunting." So heck yeah, man. So he has a friend up in Montana with some property, and we go up there hunting mountain lions, which I've never done.
It's hard.
Man, if I know we were going to do that, I would have put the picture of you with mountain lion. I got it.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, dude. I love that.
Cool. Yeah.
We could put it up. We'll put it.
It was cool. So, they found the area where, it snowed the night before, which helped us out. So you could see the tracks. The people we're with, they determined, okay, the mountain lion's within this, 3 miles square block up there, whatever it was. They said, we get out of the truck, they let the dogs go, and we got to keep up. I'm like, wait a minute, we got to keep up? So, and it was hilarious because Adam wasn't real skinny at that time either. And we're running, he's falling down on the ice. And I was cracking up until I was about to have a heart attack. And
up in the mountains,
and then I did finally shoot the thing, which was really cool. We're down in like a little gully. They say, "Well, you got to carry it up the hill." So I got to carry this.
That's a pretty big sized cat too, right?
Yeah, it was over 100 pounds. Yeah, the ones that I got. So I had to carry it up the hill, and I decided when I got home, man, I got to get in shape, man. What if something happens? I can't even run a block at full speed. So over the next couple of years, I just nothing particular.
Here and there,
eat less and move around more.
That's a good combo. That's a good combo.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you're helping out Eureka High School football. See, you're repping, so you probably do a little bit of weights there too, right?
So just for reference, just to pump you up a little bit, I know you were probably out of shape carrying that thing up the hill, but you said it was 100 pounds. Just so you know, 99.9% of the population wouldn't even put that thing on the shoulder. So just give yourself a little credit. I mean,
it's a really cool picture. I got it with the one with you behind there with you, and cool. Then I got the other one where you're holding it up.
Yeah.
The picture of that was a lot of fun.
That was a fun hunt.
Oh, and by the way, I'm thinking of this because the guy who sent me the picture was your son, and you're going to be a grandpa.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to have twins.
Seriously.
Right.
His
First,
son's having twins.
Yeah, just found out over
twins.
Christmas.
That means you're going to get a lot more grandchild time.
Grandpa.
That's awesome. Right. Congrats.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I want to ask, I have some more. So we win the greatest show on turf, and we've gone through some great things on that. You have Mike Martz becomes the coach. Was he different than Dick Vermeil? I mean, what was the relationship difference between those two? So.
Every coach has their own style. I think they both did a great job. I think we could have, looking back, that team, if we could have kept that team together, the coaches and the players, and kept them together for a little longer, we could have maybe got to another couple Super Bowls or whatnot, but money and all the business from the end of it, and there was always that controversy of the front office over there at Rams Park is against, and Martz was kind of outside of that group, and there was always conflict going on there. So I don't know the details of all that, but it's a shame because that team that could have lasted a little bit longer, and we could have had another couple trips. I would think.
Yeah, Mike was seemed like he was a pretty good coach. He sometimes, I think, overthought himself, which that happens with a good coach, especially a young good coach. But as far as coaching and as a fan, I can say I was never disappointed. I mean, we obviously went back to the Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah.
We had several good teams. It was really after he left that you really started to see the demise. How was that? I mean, now you go from winning like the season after. I mean, you come to the Rams, and for the first 4 or 5 seasons, it's a winning team.
Oh yeah.
And all of a sudden,
Yeah.
there's a change. And now Marshall Faulk's gone, right? I mean, he's one of the pieces that's gone. That last season, I was so glad he was gone. I'm telling you, that game against the Chiefs you guys played, I don't know if you remember, but I literally watched a play, and I saw Marshall going like sideways like this in the air, and I thought to myself, he's going to die. I'm not lying. I mean, that he took a couple brutal hits in that game, and I thought to myself, this game is evolving, this team is evolving. I love Marshall for the sake of his health. He needs to retire. That was his last season. And then Steven Jackson comes in, and obviously Steven, a different style. He was much up a bang up the center.
Oh yeah.
That guy was a monster too.
Yeah.
Well, the NFL was going towards that style again. They were moving back to. It started with Ricky Williams, and everybody wanted that guy who could bust up the center. They wanted them to be tall and athletic, but they wanted those big knees to go running up the center. Sometimes you actually might have seen, if you've gone back in like the 90s, it seems like you saw some of those guys were more wide receivers. Now they're becoming running backs, and they were like the Roger Craigs type, big knees, big bodies going up the center, and that was Steven Jackson. Great talent. But what was that like? So to move from that to now, that.
Winning to losing.
Yeah.
Well, and a difference. And on top of that, you got a new coach, you got new ownership. There's a lot of things that happen in that period of time.
Well, going back to I want to add a little bit about Mike.
Absolutely.
Real quick.
I like Mike.
They said he was the mad genius and whatnot, and he really was with his offense and what he could do, especially when we had all those tools that we had. I recall because we wouldn't run the ball that much, but we'd still average top, one of the top teams in the leagues in yards per carry. So as linemen, we like to run the ball. Okay? So we don't want to sit back there and pass protect all day. But we end up doing that a lot in that offense. But we were always proud of the fact that we'd still end up, plus 5 yards a carry every game, even though we maybe ran the ball only 15 times or 10 times. So. But I remember a lot of times he would either in pregame or at halftime, he'd come in and say, "Here's what we're going to do." Right? And we're like, "What? We haven't practiced that in forever. What? We don't want to do that." 99 times out of 100, okay, it worked. So, yeah, great call. That's what I would have done. So, yeah.
I mean, that was his genius, though. I mean, that's why.
Was that more because he knew his players so well, or is it because he knew his opponent so well? How was he able to formulate?
I think it's a little bit of both, and he just knew what his guys could do, and when he sees an opportunity in that defense.
I think that's a mark of a great coach, is just knowing exactly who your players are and using them accordingly.
Definitely never appreciated as much as you probably should have in St. Louis. I think he kind of left on bad terms to some degree, but I'm glad that we were talking earlier. He's back. I had heard that the other day. I'm glad that he's back in the area because, he did St. Louis proud. We went quite a ways with him, and obviously it was after his regime that the big slide starts to happen. They went out and got Fisher. They thought, the guy we beat in Super Bowl 2000 was going to be the guy to save the Rams. I mean, what did they learn there?
Yeah,
we beat them. Joking.
I don't know. Yeah.
So no, that there was a change in ownership. But how was it to play now with Steven Jackson in a different style of offense with Fisher and those guys? Was that fun? Was it different? What
Yeah,
was
it's
it?
different. It's every year's a little bit different. Like I said, if you could, you obviously want to keep all the guys you can, but it's a business and guys go and teams make mistakes. Get rid of this guy, get rid of that guy, or don't or bring in a guy that doesn't really fit in your system. But so you got to adjust every single year, and obviously it's winning fixes everything.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about going from a winning team, whether you got the same issues with personality conflicts and whatnot, but if you're winning, those things seem to disappear, right? If you're losing, now those things magnify,
Absolutely.
and they can cause more problems.
Did it seem to happen? Did it seem to happen quickly? Did it seem like, man, it just seemed like we were winning yesterday and now we're losing, or was
Yeah,
it like a kind of a drawn out?
It kind of did, but I mean, you're eternally optimistic because you're putting so much into it all the time. You're like, oh yeah, we're working.
Yeah.
We're looking good in practice. We're doing this and that. So you're always thinking it's this season. Next season we're going to turn this thing back around and get back where we were.
Yeah.
But,
I just imagine in football that pretty quickly within 3 or 4 games what you got, right? I'm just thinking baseball terms. Like if you're 30 games in the season, we got something here. Like this is going to be a long season. I imagine that's the same, like the equivalent of like 4 games in football.
yeah, probably within the first half of the season, I guess.
Okay.
But again, you're always, as long as and the coaches, they've gone to the coaching school and
They know how to pump
they know how to pump it up and all the proper cliches that they throw at you. Like, yeah, I know that. I buy it, and you buy into it whether you choose to because it would suck not to. But being on some of the greatest teams ever, those Super Bowl teams and Rams. I was also my final year was also on the 2008 Detroit Lions, and I don't know if you know what record we set there.
Yeah, no
It
wins.
was the first team to be 0-16.
Yeah.
The first team
I
with no
remember that.
wins. So I've been from the top to the bottom, and
Okay.
and it's I'd rather be on top.
Well, so you retire. We kind of started getting into this, and obviously the transformation. How about your spiritual life? What happens? Was Kurt? I mean, obviously he was spiritual on the team. Was he instrumental in your walk with the Lord?
Yeah, I mean, all those guys were. We had a big group, and I was talking to Coach Marks about this just recently. We had a great group of Christian guys on that team, more so than probably any other team that was on that were outspoken Christian guys, and a lot of the guys we would meet every week for Bible studies. We'd have family Bible studies with our wives and whatnot. And the wives would have their own Bible studies and whatnot too, just to have that community. Because you really couldn't go to church on Sunday morning, right? So we'd always have chapel service and whatnot on Sundays with the teams, but
Cool.
but we'd do it at the hotels on Saturday nights as well. But yeah, there's a good group of guys. And the guys who had a big influence on me, and I'm still a big supporter of FCA.
Yeah.
And the FCA guys here in town at that time, Walt Enoch and Ricky Horton, helped with the FCA group at Rams Park. And both those guys, just listening to some of their wisdom, and wisdom is you look that up in the dictionary, you might see Walt.
Mm-hmm. He's on his last leg. I just talked to my dad. Yeah, he's about to be in the kingdom.
Yeah, and but man, he has, and I would say I'm not the only one, but he's had that influence on
me,
dozens, and hundreds, maybe thousands of people.
Yeah.
What God had sent him to do, he definitely did, and he did it well. Just sharing the gospel and helping guys along in their walk, and I am thankful for that.
Awesome. Yeah. You said he helped you? Is that what you
said? Well, talking about wisdom, I mean, Walter Enoch, like, there's certain people, I think, that God implants, like, just innumerable seeds in their body. And, like, Walt, when he opened his mouth, there were seeds coming out. And you had no chance except to get planted with some sort of seed every time you talk to him, right?
You better listen.
Yeah.
So you learned real quick that don't be distracted when Walt's talking. You want to hear what he has to say. It's going to be something important.
Yeah.
Ricky's a pretty good too. I mean, you mentioned him, Ricky Horton.
Yeah.
I've had the opportunity to get to know him a little bit over the years, and just seems like it has a lot of wisdom and a passion for not just sharing the gospel, but for other players too, to be able to and athletes to share that joy and that love. So absolutely. And your dad's passionate.
Yeah. He's part of that group, that Bible study that, Walt and Rick and who else is in there? There's quite a few ball players. I think he obviously met with football players.
Yeah, we were in that group a little bit. Me and Adam went to that a little bit. Well, Adam was still
I'd imagine
in town.
you probably saw a young me at some point.
Yeah.
I just didn't recognize you then. At
So-
the hospitals, right?
Yeah,
You go to the hospital,
yeah, we were over at St. Luke's for a while. Yeah.
Yeah. So that played an impact. And then after the game, what was it like now not to be playing football in the transition? Because obviously I know you as a friend, so I know there was this transition to where you're at today doing financial advising. There was a period of time of adjustment there because you go from working as a football player, now you're not going to do that anymore. So what was that walk like? What?
Yeah, I'm working with now. John Brooks, and he's my business partner now, and I knew him from church at the time up at West County, and he actually approached me, said, what? Now you got to go get a real job. What are you going to do? I said, I don't want a real job. I don't want to do it. I said, so I met with him about some financial matters and whatnot, and he approached me and said, look into this. And I said, no, I'm not really interested. But the more I learned about what he was doing and how he can serve people and help people, the more interested I became. And looking into it, I started studying a little bit. I realized this is pretty interesting. I think I have a acumen for this and may be able to do this. So here we are, 10, 11 years later, something like that I've been working with John. So we're building pretty good business. I think we bought a couple businesses. We're adding a lot of young advisors, which I think we do a little different than most advisory groups that they're looking for more experienced guys. We like the young guys right out of school. We can learn as they learn, and we can help them build their own practices and succeed. So it's that's another, John's got a lot of wisdom as well. Speaking about wisdom, and one of the things that we learned early on from him is the best place you can invest your money is in the people. People is what's going to give you a multitude of return. Invest your money in people.
Yeah. So that happens now. Also, you've got kids here with the Rams. So Drew comes first, right?
Yeah, Drew was born out. We were still down in New Orleans, so he was born down in New Orleans. Then
Jake.
We got here and we had Jake, and then we went and adopted 2 girls from Guatemala, and that's Lily and Avery. We brought them home. When were they born? 2004. And then, part of the reason we did that was
because of Jake, right?
Well, the doctors, basically told my wife, said, you're not going to be able to get pregnant anymore. She had it was a tough pregnancy with Jake, and she had some issues and whatnot. And it just goes to show that those doctors aren't in charge. God is, and they don't always know what they're doing. So, so we had all of a sudden Hannah shows up, right, and then a couple of years.
Two adopts. So just so it's clear, he's got 2 boys.
Yep.
Okay. Because of some complications with Jake, Christy is told that she can't have any more kids, and then all of a sudden he goes and they adopt 2 kids. And right as you're finishing up the adoption paperwork is when she found out, if I remember right. Is that correct?
Well, we had gotten them home. Yeah, we brought them home. They were like 3 or 4 months old, and right after we got them home, we found out that Hannah's on the way.
Surprise.
So and then one more showed up, and then Noah showed up. So we got three boys, 3 girls.
That's incredible.
I got 4 girls, 2 boys.
Yep.
So we're 6 and 6.
I'm not having 2 more to catch up with you guys.
Well,
I'm good with 4.
That's actually how I got to know Andy pretty well. We'd seen each other at church, but it was really when we started talking. I talked smack with him about football, but we would go down and bring our kids down to the nursery area.
Oh yeah.
So we would at church we would start to, same thing. So I remember that, and I remember that being such a cool moment that she was able to have Hannah too. And so all of a sudden, I know that your face went like.
Yeah.
But you go from having 2 boys. Now you're having
Yeah.
3 girls.
Well, that's why they call it. The doctors, they call it, they're practicing medicine. They haven't perfected it. They're still practicing. They don't always know what they're doing.
Well, and on top of that, one of them right now is on her way to. The way she's going, the trajectory seems Olympics, right, for wrestling. She's doing pretty good.
Yeah, she's doing well. She won the tournament last weekend, that Thrasher tournament over in Francis Hall. It's one of the biggest tournaments in the state. She won that this weekend. She recently accepted a scholarship to MOBAP. She's going to wrestle there next fall.
I love MOBAP, my alma mater.
Yeah. I'm liking it more and more. The more I learn about it. In fact, the AD showed up at one of our duels the other day just to watch Lily wrestles, which I was.
Was that Tom?
I was impressed. I forget his name. Who's the AD?
Tom Smith, I believe.
That sounds right.
Tom Smith.
How can she handle her own with her brothers? Is she that good? Like, the brothers don't want to mess with her? Or is the brother
they're
Drew,
still
so let's go back.
No, because she's 100 pounds.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Drew, the oldest, wrestled NAIA for Hannibal. And
Yeah.
he did pretty good. It was his sophomore year was his best year, right? If I remember right, he kind of got hurt his junior year, so I think it was his sophomore year, right? That he
At Hannibal?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, no, he did good all year up there, but he got a lot of injuries. He kept hurting that shoulder, but he battled through it every year, and he was never fully healthy. But
I imagine shoulders and wrestling are.
But I thought his sophomore year was his peak year, as far as going into the tournament and doing really well. Maybe I'm wrong, but
I think his senior year probably was one, but he was real close to making it to nationals that year. And again, he hurt his shoulder. I remember watching him in that final tournament, and he gutted it out. I think he ended up getting 3rd place in that tournament, and you needed to be in 1 or possibly 2 to move on. And
so was that the shoulder that he was pulling up on the tank the other day that I saw?
Yeah, he's healed up. I think those are not his biggest issues anymore.
He's in Special Forces, and he had a picture, and he was on this tank thing, and he was doing pull-ups off of this tank thing.
Oh yeah, he's training. He's a Marine, and they found out they're going to be out in. He's going to be stationed out in California at least for the next couple of years after he's done with this training next month. So
an excuse to go visit the ranch.
Yeah,
right?
right out there, right by
Pendleton, out in San Diego.
No, he's going to be out in what's it called, 29 Palms in the desert. Out
Yeah,
there. Yeah.
There's a couple cousins out there.
So that's he's got the 2. He's got the one that Jake wrestled, but he was really more of a linebacker. That's what he went to college for, or is in college.
Yeah, he's up at Truman, and he was a heck of a wrestler too. And, if Truman still had that wrestling program, he'd probably be doing both of them.
Truman Bulldogs?
Yep.
Yeah. My high school running back went there.
That's where my wife and her family all graduated from. So they're all.
Yeah, it's a good school.
Yeah, another good one. See, so well.
Did we miss anything about your life?
Yeah, that's about it.
That's all right. This is all the fun stuff, right?
Did you mention I like donuts?
We did.
Okay.
We did like.
Is that your favorite claw? Bear claw? Is that a bear claw? Maybe I missed what it was. Bear claw.
No, it was like a fritter or whatever. I don't know what the difference is or why.
I think
they're good.
I don't know the difference. I would imagine a donut brother knows the difference. We'll move on.
No,
he knows it. He's just eating. He doesn't want to tell me.
Here's a question for you. Do you have a favorite verse that really kind of encompasses your life? We were talking the other day with Judy Bowen, and she was giving us a verse that really meant something to her. She'd share with Albert. So do you have a verse that resonates with you?
Yeah, I got my favorite verse, and I put it on with my autograph there for years and years was Proverbs 3:5. And to me, that was that kind of, it's part of my testimony as well. That kind of defined me as trust in the Lord and lean not on your own understanding, which is what I tried to do for so long. I tried to figure it out on my own. I'm kind of an analytical guy. I try to figure this out. I got to know what that means and why it's there, and I tried to just hammer my way through figuring it all out. And God said, "No, I'm in charge, not you."
There's this element called faith, right? You walk by faith.
There it is.
And he brought people in your life to help that, right? That's
absolutely.
I think one of the main ways God shapes us is with other believers.
No doubt.
So I know you talked to Mart. One last thing. Who of the Super Bowl team do you still keep in touch with anymore? I know Adam. So
yeah, me and Adam get together. We try to go at least once a year, do some fishing or hunting or something. I see Orlando every now and then. In fact, I saw Orlando last summer. his son's playing over at SLU, and they had we were playing them against Eureka at a jamboree, preseason jamboree. I got to talk to him for a little bit. I see guys like that in town here every now and then at different events and whatnot, but not keep in touch and hang out. Yeah,
those are few and far between kind of guys.
Not as much as we probably should.
Yeah, well, that's okay. I was just curious if if there was still keeping in touch. Do you talk to Kurt at all anymore?
No, I haven't talked to him in years. Yeah.
I was wondering.
Yeah.
With his, he still has the coat program, so that he does.
Yeah.
For the winter, so he comes in town every now and then. So I was just kind of curious. So, all right. Well, hey.
This was awesome. No, I don't have any more. I mean, I do have more questions, but I don't want to. We'll save them for a future event.
There you go.
We'll save them for a future event. We don't want to exhaust all of our morsels
of
the
good material.
Yeah,
right?
we got to save some morsels for later.
Yeah. Well, hey, we appreciate you being here, Andy.
Thanks for having me out.
We're having a great conversation
and the donuts.
The donuts, yeah.
The donuts, yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, you guys eat some donuts.
Well, hey,
take them with me.
On top of that, if you enjoyed this broadcast, make sure that you guys continue to check out all the others. Like, subscribe, and make sure that you guys give Andy and his team over at Resource One a call if you're interested in financial planning. I trust them. I mean, you're so good that I'm analytical, and I'm a numbers guy, so I definitely trust you guys. What's the number they can call over there?
Our number is 636-458-1798.
Perfect. All right, guys. Well, you heard it from him. We'll catch you on Thursday. Talk to you.
You're safe.